Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. This is going to be an exciting update because this is an ecosystem that I think is more primed than many people will lead you to believe. The upside potential is absolutely massive and there's plenty of liquidity for any whale to take profit on. You very rarely see the perfect combination of high liquidity, low market cap, and a good community ready to drive the value of these assets. Layer 1s have always been my best investments over each bull run, and for today's video I'm going to be breaking down one of my favorite layer 1 ecosystems, some of the best tokens that are actually built inside of this, and tokens that I think are moments away from providing 30 and 50x opportunities over this next year. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to see anything I'm investing in long term, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website and get all of my altcoin picks. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to start off today's video, and we're going to be jumping into the PulseChain ecosystem because I really do believe that this has some of the more opportunity when we're talking about other chains, between the low caps, between the tokens in the ecosystem, and the native tokens themselves. I really do see a lot of upside potential with this chain, regardless of anybody's opinions. I'm not here to trade bias. I'm here to find opportunity, see what's undervalued, and then make profit off of it. So I have a lot of people that will say, ah man, PulseChain's a scam, Richard Hart is this and that. And at the end of the day, none of that really matters. The truth of the matter is there's opportunity on any chain. You shouldn't really be a maximalist on any chain, and you should be looking to target narratives on any other opportunity that's out there. You know, there's a lot of opportunity to make profit this cycle, and I really do think that PulseChain is going to be one of those layer 1s that surprises people, whether it's the native chain token itself or whether it's the tokens in the ecosystem. This is one that I think is going to catch people by surprise. Now, what we're going to be starting off here is PulseChain. We're going to talk about the charts of this, then we're going to be jumping into some of the other favorite tokens in this ecosystem because I really do believe we're at the point of finding a reversal. Now here's the good thing when we're talking about PulseChain. It's got $30 million worth of liquidity and sub $500 million in market cap. For people that don't realize, that's actually a significant amount of liquidity for the market cap. You know, I see cryptos that are worth like, you know, even 500 million that have not even half the amount of liquidity. So there's a ton of liquidity on this chain when it comes talking about swapping into the native chain assets. And so because of that, there's already a lot of liquidity. I think that it's going to be easy for new tokens to be added once the real hype of the cycle sets in. And with PulseChain, we're going to come down here and actually look at the chart because I've been watching this for a long time. I obviously sacrificed for PulseChain all the way back in the last cycle. I'm still just holding what I initially sacrificed for. And what I've noticed about this last impulse is it really was a shakeout of all of those weak hands. All of the people that had sacrificed, that were trying to get out of the market, they all got out of it over in this period. And then we ended up seeing this big sell-off, basically fully retrace the move. Now, the thing I want you guys to be aware of is a lot of people just assume that this is completely dead because of the fact we fully retraced. But when we're looking at our Elliott wave count, it's very typical for a 1 wave and a 2 wave to have such a big correction like this, right? Because we know that all we finished was 5 waves to the upside, and that was what we saw right here. And then over the last few months, we've just been correcting inside of this ABC. Now, the thing that I want you guys to be aware of is inside of a wave 2 correction, oftentimes they can retrace up to 99% of the entire move. So if we look, you know, our move started down in here, we're only a little bit above that, holding a higher high. That's something that is pretty normal and typical inside of a wave 2 correction because it's the first wave that starts the hype, right? We can kind of see the same thing happened over in here. We made this first little impulse and then basically fully retraced that move. 1 waves and 2 waves oftentimes are going to do that. 3 waves and 4 waves are going to be a lot smaller along with that 5. So with us being or what I should say, with us only having completed our first impulse of this cycle, having this wave 2 come all the way back down to the base support, it's not surprising. It's something that's very typical with wave 2s, and all it is doing is providing a great opportunity for those that want to get in. I think that now is most likely going to be the low that we find. I was leaning towards that we could end up holding above the top of this wave 1. Obviously, we ended up making one more final push below. We got our final 5-wave impulse to the downside. right there. So as it stands, I do believe that this correction is over. And when we're looking at it from a long-term basis, it's important to understand how the Elliott waves are actually going to factor into this. So this is the chart I always bring up when I'm trying to explain Elliott wave theory. And it's because every single cycle, we have 3 impulse waves and an ABC, 3 impulse waves and ABC, 3 impulse waves and ABC. And that's what's going to complete our entire move. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we get the big correction after. Where we're at inside of PulseChain is just right here. We just finished the first subwave. Because if you notice, we have this high and then this big ABC that comes down. And the top of our first impulse is actually just taking us to the mid-cycle range before we come all the way back down to fully retrace that move. PulseChain is in the exact same situation where we finished 5 waves off of the lows. We finished our ABC correction. And all it did was fully retrace that move. We went all the way back up to the mid-range of that cycle. And so as it stands, that impulse is now completed. So we're going to remove all these drawing tools and we're going to now be looking at what the big picture is. Because remember, we finished 5 waves off of the lows and our ABC correction. We're currently right here at the very bottom of wave 2 and wave C. What's coming next is this wave 3. And if you guys remember, wave 3 in our subwave count was right here. That was our move inside of wave 3. Much more parabolic, much more impulsive than any of the prior price action that we had experienced. And the great thing about our current setup is the next move coming is another wave 3. The difference is this was wave 1, this was wave 2. The next one coming is wave 3, we'll get wave 4, and then we still have another wave 5 to go after that, because remember guys, we're right here. We still have wave 3 to come, ABC correction, and then we still have wave 5 to come. So when I'm looking at the price of PulseChain, I honestly think that this thing's about to take off in an absolutely massive way. And the only way that we can really predict, I guess you could say, where the price is going to be going is through the Fibonacci. So through Fibonacci, we can go from the low to the high, back down to where the very bottom of this wave 2 correction is going to be. And this is going to give us our minimum targets. Our minimum target is going to be the 1618. And then our next target is going to be the 2618. Oftentimes, inside of a wave 3, they can actually go far surpassing all of the fib extensions. And inside of a wave 3 of 3, it's very typical, right? Because you guys got to remember, when we're looking over in here, this wave 3 is the same as this wave 3 right here. Notice how much more parabolic it was compared to that first impulse. That's what we're getting ready for, except this one right here. This is a wave 3 of 3. It's going to be the most impulsive, the most parabolic, the highest ROI, the most volume. All of those things are happening inside of this next move. So while everybody's kind of crapping their pants about the fact that we fully retraced this move, I'm sitting here looking at the long-term graph thinking, oh wow, you know, we're just at the bottom of this wave 2. Everybody's capitulated, everybody's panic sold. Now comes this part where we're actually going to reverse. And the cool thing about this setup is the risk to reward is really solid at these lower levels. You know, from where we're at right now, just to the range high, you're looking at almost a 4x return. And inside of a layer 1, I'm very confident that once we truly get that bottom and that reversal, this thing is going to start moving up very quickly in the same ways that it did right over in here. This was the last wave 3 that we saw. And notice how vertical that is in comparison to what we saw over in here. That's the way that these wave 3 impulses generally are going to work. Now, the question becomes, how high are we going to go, right? Because if we remove these drawing tools, when I first came over to PulseChain and I started making videos, I was talking about this wave 3 impulse. And we go from the low to the high, back down to wave 2. Notice how we actually went higher than the 1618 and we went all the way up to this 2618, just barely below it. Now, if we come over and actually look at PulseX, PulseX does the exact same thing as PulseChain. The difference is it actually holds better support. It doesn't correct as much because of the burn rate, and then it pumps harder inside of the bull cycle because there's less circulating supply. So this is going to be the exact same chart. The difference is PulseX is just the main DEX platform, and it has a burn rate. So because of that, it always outperforms PulseChain. So if you're looking between the two of these, I always pick to actually buy PulseX over PulseChain. I wouldn't really hold both of them. I would pick one or the other, and if you wanted to hold an extra one, I'd always go with incentive token. But when we're looking at PulseX, the reason I wanted to switch over here is because PulseX outperformed its fib targets, right? Inside of its wave 3, we had the 1618 target there, we had the 2618 target there, and this thing came all the way up to the top of the 3618. So that's why I'm telling you guys that when we're looking at our long-term price targets for how high this is going to go, we have to understand that we can actually dwarf every single one of our fib targets, and it's almost to be expected. Because this is a wave 3 of 3, I'm kind of leaning towards this chart breaking past every single one of these, even the 4618. We could just keep fractaling out 618s indefinitely. But the truth of the matter is, I've always seen these new cycles that really haven't been around around. They're just in their early stages of price discovery. And because they're layer ones that have entire ecosystems where new tokens can build, it always benefits the native chain token itself. And so with PulseChain, I really do think that this thing is going to catch a lot of people by surprise, and it's going to balloon well past all of these fib targets. Because here's the thing, guys, the next move coming is wave 3. We finished wave 1 and wave 2. Wave 3 could literally go all the way past every single one of these, have our 4-wave correction, and then we're still going to have a whole nother impulse to come after that. So I'm not here trying to predict the price. I'm here to tell you guys that the best thing that we can do right now, if you're not buying at the low, definitely don't be selling right now, but look to just hold the length of this cycle. I am very confident in saying that most all of these cryptos are going to outperform all of our wildest expectations. Now, if you have some crazy expectation of PulseX doing like 1000x, okay, that's delusional. It's not going to do 1000x from here. It's just too overvalued from where I see it going. However, you know, we could hit a 50 to 100x in a really bullish market cycle. Do I think it's going to be PulseChain that does 100x? Probably not, but I think that PulseX could, because I do believe that PulseX will massively outperform PulseChain. It just looks better. The chart is the same, the difference being that this one actually holds better support. And so when we're looking at the two, both of these are only inside of their wave 1 and wave 2. But when we're looking at PulseX, we have an absolutely massive amount of bullish divergence that's formed in here, higher highs and higher lows on the RSI. Meanwhile, it's lower lows and lower highs on the price action, and we're finally to that point where I do believe that we're bottomed right here. And from where we're at right now, just to the range high, you know, you're talking like 379%. So it's pretty close to the same targets as PulseChain, but I do believe that this will actually outperform the ROI that you're made. But we got to remember here that inside of our last wave 3 for PulseX, we ended up coming all the way up to the top of the 3618. So, you know, assuming we just repeat the same thing that we did last time, you're looking at like a 15x move in the next breakout. So that's what I say, guys. A 15x is really solid returns. I mean, that's relatively life-changing for the average person. For every $1,000 you can turn it into 15 grand. You know, that's a good amount of money. That's enough to pay people's debt off. That's enough to be able to buy a new car that you might need, help out your family with whatever. And that's only $1,000. You know, some of you guys probably have more than 10,000, maybe even over that $100,000. And you're talking about a huge move that's coming just in the next breakout. And the cool thing about this, guys, is this is only wave 3, so wave 3 could even go past all of these targets. But let's just assume we hit 15x, we'd have a 4-wave correction, probably come all the way back down relatively close to those prior highs, and then we still have another 5-wave to come after that. And the fun thing about this cycle, guys, is we could have this final wave 5 being a lot more like your typical blow off top, because oftentimes the wave 3 is going to be the biggest. That's where the most ROI is made. But it's inside of the wave 5 that oftentimes that can just get really overextended. You know, Bitcoin is kind of a prime example of this if I remove the drawing tools. In 2017, we had one of those type of moves, which I'm going to come all the way back here. So in 2017, this was our blow off top. Wave 3 topped here, wave 4 was right here, and wave 5 was this entire move. So when we're looking at this thing, it had a huge extended wave 5. That is something that is very typical inside of these parabolic markets when they start breaking out. It waves here and pretty much be at 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. It looks a little bit more even when we're looking at the long-term basis here, but once again, I still firmly believe that this is something that could happen to a number of these different altcoins. Depending on how big wave 3 gets, it can be an early indication for how big wave 5 gets. If we see this massive move in PulseX coming all the way to the 2, 3, 6, 1, 8, and maybe even beyond, I think it's very likely that after the wave 4 correction, we're going to see another wave 5 that's probably going to be at least the same size as wave 3. And it could very easily just overextend and be a lot more of your typical blow off top, maybe along the likes of what Bitcoin did back in that 2017 cycle. And that's something that is very typical that happens with some of the better performing altcoins. Is PulseX going to be one of those? We really don't know, guys. But what I will say is when it comes to PulseX, it has better tokenomics than a lot of the different cryptos out there. If I had to choose between PulseX and PulseChain, obviously you got to go with PulseX. It's just a no-brainer there. But truthfully, my favorite token in the Richard Heart ecosystem is actually Incentive Token. And the reason I like Incentive Token so much is because you can actually take your Pulse, you can take your PulseX, you can take your Hex, or even stable coins, and you can actually farm them on PulseX, right here, this DEX, and then you can actually earn Incentive Token for doing so. And the great thing about Incentive Token is you could be farming this and earning like $100 a day in it. And from where we're at right now, just to the prior all-time highs, you're looking at a 32x. So any rewards you're getting from farming ink right now, multiply that by 32 times, and it's probably going to go way higher than that when we actually go into a new all-time high. This is my favorite token in the Richard Heart ecosystem because I've got nothing but confidence this absolutely outperforms everything else. When we're talking about PulseChain, when we're talking about PulseX, Inc. is by far the best performer, and it's honestly held up the best, even though it's got the least amount of liquidity and volume. You're coming all the way down here and seeing a 77% correction, whereas what we saw in PulseChain, it was like 79%. So the lowest cap token in the entire ecosystem held up the best. That tells me that there's plenty of people buying this, and there's more people buying this than the other tokens. My favorite thing about this is we've only ever finished 5 waves off of the low. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is once again just your typical wave 1 impulse. If we look at fib targets to the next impulse, if we could see a 15x in PulseX, a lot of people have asked me how high I think that incentive token goes, and honestly this thing's going to go into a new all-time high in the next move. Like, we're talking, if PulseX does a 15x inside of this next wave 3, we're looking at incentive token probably going back up to the prior all-time highs, and that's like a 32x. So I really think that if you're looking to concentrate your bet on one token inside of this ecosystem, highly advise you go for incentive token. And if you sacrificed PulseChain and for PulseX, you could literally take what you're holding spot and farm those for Inc. You're still holding the both of these. The ROI difference between Pulse and PulseX is not going to be hardly any different, to where the impertinent loss suffered from farming from one outperforming the other isn't going to be anything to worry about. But the amount that you're going to actually earn from the farmed Inc. token, this one, it'll far make back any loss from impertinent loss that you're going to experience. Because like I said, guys, if you're earning $100 a day paid out in this Inc. token from farming it, and it does a 32x, you're literally making $3,200 a day. Like, how insane is that? That you, for somebody with a small amount of portfolio, could be earning $3,200 a day. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20, but you have to have the foresight to be able to see these things play out. I'm telling you guys right now, as somebody who's made a lot of money in these cycles, this is one ecosystem that a lot of people are overlooking, and it has everything to do with the fact that everybody hates Richard Heart, which truthfully, I don't even like the guy. He's annoying. He's a narcissist. But it's not, none of that matters, guys. I'll literally trade any garbage meme coin if I think it's going to make profit, and that's the issue everybody has. They get too worried about emotional biases, about judgments that they make, when the only thing any of us really care about is making profit. And if you care about anything else, like, whatever, you're going to make less money than everybody. But I'm here as somebody who invests in multiple chains. I'm bridging on multiple chains. I'm buying altcoins. I'm buying meme coins. I'm buying stuff that I know could go to zero tomorrow that has no value. Now, when we're talking about altcoins that do have value, with the amount of liquidity that exists on PulseChain, it really is surprising. You're looking at almost $30 million in liquidity just in this Inc. pair alone. It only has $85 million in market cap. There's a lot of liquidity existing on PulseChain, way more liquidity than many of the top chains that are out there. And that's what's really crazy. It's surprising to me that there's enough money over here to really back the ecosystem. There's not a lot of projects built on PulseChain yet. We've basically built one of the first ones that were over there with Pulse Launch, but I really believe that this thing is going to blow up so big. For example, incentive token just to the prior high is like a 3x. So if we're talking about this thing starting a reversal and running all the way back up close to these prior all-time highs, you're looking at like a 20 to a 30x type of move just in this next breakout. There's more volume down here on this first impulse than there was at the cycle top. You don't get this type of opportunity very often, and that's why I'm kind of hammering home, incentive token right now, because I'm really bullish on the whole ecosystem. I'm really confident that PulseX is going to do a huge move into price discovery very soon. So if that's the case, the best token is going to be an incentive token, because if PulseX is gaining all of that value, it's only bringing more liquidity, it's only bringing more people to farm Inc., and more people are going to end up buying it in due return. So when I'm looking at this, what it reminds me of is actually the Qualcomm Fractal. If you guys don't know what Qualcomm was, it was one of the best performing internet stocks in the last, or what I should say, in the internet bubble. And it looks just the same as what we're seeing right now with incentive token. We saw our first impulse, and oftentimes this is going to be like a bubble fractal that you're going to see in crypto a lot. Litecoin in 2017 did this exact same pattern, and many of the other altcoins have done this over the years. But you're going to see this accumulation in wave 1, wave 3 breaks out, this ascending triangle type pattern, and then you get this big blow off top into wave 5. This is what I've been talking about here inside of our next cycle. What happens if all of these make a huge blow off top in their next move, like what, some of the better performing internet stocks did? It's very typical to see that. Wave 3 was this big massive move, very vertical and parabolic. Wave 1 took all of the accumulation and time to get there. But inside of that wave 3, it was just vertical. Notice how wave 5 was even bigger though. That's something that can happen inside of these extremely hyped tokens. Incentive token had an extended wave 5. Its wave 5 was bigger than its wave 3. And so if that's happening inside of our first little impulse here, because remember, this is wave 1, this is wave 2. Imagine how big wave 3 of 3 is actually going to get. And that's why I'm telling you guys, I'm literally drawing targets all the way back up to these prior all-time highs. Because I really think that incentive token is about to do that. So, you know, if you're looking to pick one or the other out of the 3 I've given, obviously concentrate your bets in incentive token. But I recommend that everybody goes out and farms incentive token. And if you're worried about farming it, you know, use Pulse and PulseX because there literally is no difference in the price. They're going to pretty much follow the same. So the impertinent loss experience is going to be almost nothing. But, you know, even if you lost, say, 5% of your Pulse stack or PulseX stack, one or the two from outperforming, the amount that you're going to gain from farming ink when it breaks out is just going to far outweigh any of that. You're going to gain, you know, multiples over the 5% loss. And so that's why I say stick to this one. It's by far the best token, but my favorite token is obviously Pulse Launch. And I think that this one is just the biggest no-brainer. When we're looking at the top projects on PulseChain, I just don't see the same opportunity that I do with launchpads. I made way more money off launchpads in the last cycle. The fact that you can participate in pre-sales. And the cool thing about Pulse Launch is they're actually going to be having an airdrop very soon. So they just had their first staking unlock go live, and with that we've seen some people actually take profits and capitulate. I shouldn't say take profits because they're actually selling at a loss, but with these people capitulating, they're capitulating right before this airdrop goes live. So once the DAO token goes live, the platform's already built, staking contract is live, the first projects are coming to the incubation for the launchpad. Now we're actually going to be announcing that airdrop very soon. So the only way you can actually get the airdrop is by holding launch tokens. And it'll be a 1-to-1 airdrop split. People that are staking are going to get a little bit of a bonus. So if you are staking your Pulse Launch, you'll get a bigger bonus in the airdrop. But nonetheless, guys, I love this setup because all it's really showing is what looks to be a completion of our first ABC correction. It could come back down a little bit lower. We're going to have to watch and see. I think it really revolves around when Pulse bottoms, because this was where Pulse Launch went live, right? It was at the exact top of the cycle. That was when they listed a liquidity. That was over in here. So as Pulse Launch has been dropping, it was really because we've been liquidity bonded to PulseChain. PulseChain actually dropped like, you know, 78%, 79% depending. And this one ended up following pretty much the same. You know, from the high to the low, you're looking at like an 86%. So pretty close, but considering it only has, you know, less than $2 million in total market cap, it's not that big of a sell-off. And I think that the buy opportunity is really big, considering it doesn't take very much money to move this back up to the range highs. You're looking at a 6.5x back to those all-time highs. And with all the announcements coming, with the airdrop coming, you're basically guaranteed another token on top of all of that. So I really do think Pulse Launch is by far the best low cap, by far the best token as a whole built on PulseChain, because the opportunity to make the most money in crypto is always revolving around these pre-sales. Anybody that gets access to the pre-sales always makes more money because they always get in, then they make the listing pump, and even when they correct, you're still up in profit. So I really think that this is going to be the best driver of value in PulseChain because they can streamline more adoption. They already launched a bridge. Through the bridge, all the fees are actually buying and burning launch off the market, so they've now made themselves completely deflationary. The staking contract is live. With the staking contract, everybody's got their Pulse points. With the Pulse points going live, now everybody can actually accumulate some of these pre-sale opportunities and the incubations that are coming to the pad. So if you're looking for the best risk to reward buy, by far Pulse Launch, there's nothing better. You're literally guaranteed to get a free airdrop here pretty soon once they're ready to make that thing community governed. So guys, this is the video I had for you. Wanted to cover some of these favorite tokens because I really think that they're bottom down in here. We have an enormous amount of bullish divergence that's formed. Tons of exhaustion on the seller part, whether you're looking at PulseChain, whether you're looking at PulseX, it's all the same. Ink is setting up for, you know, life-changing gains right here. If you're looking to buy just one of the entire list, I always recommend going for incentive token. It's got great liquidity for any whale to sell, and it's got a low market cap, and it's got a 32x target just to the next prior all-time high. If you're looking for the best risk to reward as far as a low cap goes, honestly think Pulse Launch. As far as the airdrop, as far as the staking contract, new incubations coming to the pad, you just don't find better opportunities than launch pads, especially at sub $2 million in market cap. You can buy this on Coinbase, well, Base. the base chain. They've added support over there. There's the liquidity pool, or you can buy it on PulseChain. It doesn't matter. They're only going to continue to add more support for other chains because the ultimate goal is being cross-chain. So guys, if you did find value in this, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you want to see anything I'm investing in long-term, buying, selling, trading inside of this move, links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up on my website. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. I'd love to see you guys inside of my group and make some profit with us because I know that the markets are just moments away from exploding. So thank you. With that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.